Growing up, my parents were always working, so we really never got the chance to do the normal family thing, like take family trips, explore the world together. And at first, this really didn't bother me until I came back to school from summer break. I remember all my teachers would ask my classmates and I the same dreadful question, and I quote, "So, class, where did you go for summer break?" I remember almost every student will quickly raise their hand to give this lengthy, drawn out speech about them visiting these great places like the Bahamas and Hawaii, and how they will watch the sunset fall and drink coconuts. I mean, the list goes on. In this moment, I thought to myself, okay, Kyra, since you can't physically explore different parts of the world, you could instead taste them. So I made up in my mind, if there was ever an opportunity to try different dishes from other cultures, I would do so. And I did. I mean, I tried all types of food from Thailand to Mexico to Indonesia to Japan. The list goes on. Although I tried all these amazing foods, I noticed I never really interacted with anyone from another country on a more personal level. I wanted to experience something more meaningful than just trying new food. Eventually, that same desire in my experience in eating dishes from multiple cultures prepared me when I met and worked with Francisca at my new job. So it was my first day at this new job, and I was super excited, mainly because this was my first ever CNA job. I remember introducing myself to all my new coworkers, and I was so eager to get to know them. However, some of them were not really as interactive as I expected, except for Francisca. Francisca was this middle-aged woman who happened to work on the same shift as I did. After a couple of weeks being at my new job, Francisca and I were quickly bonded over our lunch break together. I noticed it would be moments where she would always offer to share her homemade Cameroonian dishes with our coworkers, but almost all of them declined, except for me. Part of me believed that our coworkers didn't want her food because maybe they didn't like to try new things. Of course, not me. So as I began eating her food, my intriguing mind thought, why not use this opportunity to learn about Francisca's culture and how she makes her food? And so I did. She started to explain to me that she was from Cameroon, and this is a small country from the central part of Africa, which I found absolutely fascinating. So as time progressed, she shared with me her favorite dishes she loved making. My favorite dish she would often make me were plantain chips. And I mean, I love plantain chips so much that I decided to make it myself. And so I decided to go to the store, bought all the ingredients that she told me to get, and I followed all her instructions perfectly. Or so I thought. After waiting till the plantain chips were done, I tried it and I realized something went completely wrong. The next day, I came to work sharing with Francisca how I followed all her directions and how they still turned out terrible. She ended up laughing at me. And so later on, Francisca also shared with me that when you eat African food, that they don't use their utensils, but instead they use their hands. And so I found myself eating almost everything with my hands. As time progressed, Francisca and I created this special bond, and she almost became like a grandmother to me. Well, fast forward 3 years later, as working as a CNA, I took on a second job. Eventually, I had to decide to either keep my second job or my CNA job. And unfortunately, I ended up having to let go of my CNA job. Now, this was super difficult for me because, as I mentioned earlier, Francisca and I had such a close bond. But I ended up having to let go of the CNA job. So some months had passed by, and I ended up meeting a new friend. Now, ironically, she was also from Africa, and she invited me over for dinner. She cooked jollof rice and fufu. So as my friend was fixing my plate, I washed my hands and I started to eat. And as I was eating, from the corner of my eye, I see my friend. She like looks at me, she kind of tilts her head, and she just smiled. And I just knew in that moment that she was surprised, and I thought to myself, yep, Grandma Francisca taught me that. And I smiled back. So, in sharing this meaningful intercultural interaction with you all, my hope is that you will learn that some of the best relationships can be formed from having that willingness to learn about one's culture. So, I challenge you to engage with someone who doesn't look like you or come from the same place as you. Even though I didn't physically go to Cameroon, I was able to still experience the culture by my willingness to learn.